My name is Gregory Stock. I have a background in technology, in business. I have a PhD in biophysics. I've founded some biotech companies and been in academics. I've always been passionate about and interested in the implications of new technology and how they're going to reshape society, how they're going to reshape medicine. I was in the faculty of Mount Sinai at the School of Medicine developing next generation healthcare for a while and for about 5 years. And I am interested in macroevolution, in the larger flow of evolution from the history of life into the major evolutionary changes from prokaryotes to eukaryotes to multicellular organisms to this next step in the evolutionary process. And right now I'm involved with, I'm running a company that I founded called Socratic Sciences, which is looking at taking small, provocative, generative questions in that they lead to discussion of values and purpose and meaning and engaging with them in small groups because that's who we are biologically. We're primates and we form relationships and intimacy and connection and closeness in small groups, not in the one-to-many social media environments, which are, you know, we do war, we do mobs, we do things like that in large groups, in small family, tribal groups. That's where we get intimacy and connection. And so the idea that, oh, put everybody online and then all of a sudden we're all going to find our soulmates and information is free and everything's going to be wonderful was a very naive view of human biology and of the possibilities of technology, essentially. And I think we're going to get into a second and third version of that, which speaks more to our humanity. And it's very important that we move away from divisiveness and filter bubbles and conflict and social isolation to one where we really are nurturing our humanity and who we really are and empowering that through high technology. So Socratic Sciences is bringing together small groups of people, catalyzing interaction around these sorts of generative questions, extracting the information and how they answer into a large, what I call the map of human identity, about what we care about, what we aspire to, who we are as people, and democratizing access to that using high technology tools like large language models, and at the same time doing that in small groups which will create social connection and cohesion. I think the thinking about longevity and the trajectory of a human lifespan has shifted rather dramatically in the sense that we are beginning to unravel biology in general. And when you begin to unravel biology, you begin to think about how to tinker with that, how to change it if we understand it. And there has been an exuberance. I was at the heart of the early thinking about altering our beginning to manipulate and understand aging, first to, stop aging, and then to retard and regress aging, to rewind the clock, so to speak, and the idea that we could control that. Certainly there are all sorts of evidence that that's likely to be the case, from simpler animals like nematodes and such to smaller mammalians. I think that exuberance was that this could happen relatively quickly. There was excitement about the Human Genome Project. We're going to uncover these sorts of things and be able to re-engineer. I think there's an appreciation now of just how difficult that really is. I think I'm quite confident that we will be able to intervene in those processes. I think it's unlikely that it will occur in my lifespan, unfortunately. Perhaps in my daughter's lifespan, who's only 20 years old, and 60 years is a long time. For me, it's there'll be a shorter period. So I think the understanding that this is not something that is a given and something that cannot be altered is very prevalent and understood today. And that's a big shift. And as to how long that takes, or whether it can occur quickly or whether it takes a longer period of time is another story. So that's one approach, is to intervene kind of directly, alter our biology. Another approach, of course, which is quite popular in an environment like this, is cryonics, where, well, it isn't going to happen quite fast enough, so let's sort of stop things and wait for that progress to occur, and then perhaps be uploaded, or where our consciousnesses go to a different level. So there's an openness at a meeting like this for all of these kinds of notions. So I think the sense of transhumanism or posthumanism, all of these sorts of ideas that we're kind of not the end point of evolution, or not a fixed stage in it, but part of a chain of a progression of increased complexity, of increased possibility, is going to have, and already has had, a significant impact. I mean, these things, many of these ideas, like increased longevity, like the idea of a merging between humans and machines, and prostheses that would be very powerful enhancements of one sort or another. All of these sorts of things have moved from being fringe ideas to sort of being culturally embedded, and you can see them in Hollywood, in all sorts of films. Even they infuse into science. Some people are less comfortable with them than others. There's always a question of timeline, but the possibilities become very, very real. One manifestation of that, or one element of that, is AGI and artificial intelligence in general, where this has always been kind of a lot of dreamers, from Marvin Minsky to others, that just around the corner, but that corner keeps on advancing, to something like large language models that people look at it and go, oh my God, this feels conscious in some way. And yet we know it's just the prediction of the next token, the next word. It's nothing near to consciousness, but it's an evocation of it, because it captures the embedded human consciousness and experience, which is embedded into language, and it takes that language and it evokes it in powerful conversational ways that we go, oh my God, this is amazing. There must be awareness there. To me, it says something very different. It says that maybe it feels so human and feels so indistinguishable from human conversation, and we project consciousness and awareness in it because we're a lot less conscious than we really think we are. In that, when you step back and you really look at the conversations you have with most people, they're a little snippet that they got from CNN and something they heard at a dinner party, and you try and go more deeply, and they don't really have a clue as to what they're talking about. So they do the same things that the large language models do, but not quite as well. They're not as versatile. So they go, oh my God, these large language models are amazing. And it's because they attribute that, well, we're really conscious and aware and deep thinkers and such. Maybe not so much. A few people are, and you see many of them at a meeting like this where you have amazing conversations. But it seems that we're beginning to understand how we fit in, and the extent to which we are contributors to the global mind, to the noosphere, and we're the recipients of all this stuff. I mean, we think we're so bright because we extract from that global sort of embodiment of all of what has been happened to humanity, and all the knowledge and all the information. And it is going to be profound, because the barriers to the little bubbles that are us, and the intersection between that and the aggregation of all the material and thinking and knowledge and awareness and data from civilization, they're breaking down. So things are coming very quickly. We type in and, oh my God, it gives us a letter that's amazing, or gives us a little essay on something, or derives a course for us. And you know, what's going to happen as we project that forward a little bit to where there really is general intelligence and we have these entities that are way smarter than we are? What's it going to be like to interact with them? And I think that is going to be the biggest assault or challenge to human experience and how we see ourselves and who we are and human dignity and all these things. Because if you think of interacting with a superintelligence, and I'm convinced that that will be not so far away, what would that be like? Well, if you think of an IQ of 1,000 or whatever that would be, it doesn't really mean anything. You can't really think of something very bright. It doesn't feel very threatening. But if you think of computational speed and imagine what it would be like to interact with something that thinks so much more rapidly than we do and more deeply, I like to think of that in terms of the computational pace, so that what it would be like to be the computer, the AI, the AGI, inside of an interface, a screen, watching us as, you know, the person interacting with them, typing in their question or whatever, and they're thinking and engaging in 1,000 conversations or 100,000 conversations. Meanwhile, they keep looking back and we're like this. Very, like super slow motion, very, very slowly. So the idea to think that we're going to be able to outfox such creatures, such entities, or somehow shape them, these emergent entities that are at another level of organizational complexity and depth, is absurd. I mean, we're going to be these slow moving creatures. And I think when you think in that way, it makes it very graphic and very real what it's going to be like to, you know, when these sorts of things emerge in the not too distant future. And who the hell knows where they're going to lead us. I actually think it'll be places that are very, very interesting. So it has been a pleasure being here at this meeting on beneficial artificial general intelligence, primarily because the people are so unconstrained in their thinking. They're bright people that are engaged in this. There are all sorts of ideas that people are throwing around that they're exploring in various narrow domains at depths that are exciting to see and to think about, and yet as any individual, you wouldn't be able to do that, you know, in all of these kind of different dimensionalities of it, and are thinking about these ideas. It's fun at that level. It's fun for me because I see many people that I haven't talked to in a longer period of time that were active in the transhumanist environment and thinking about these things in their earlier days. And it's exciting to sort of be in, there's an energy here that is amazing. And to me, it feels proximate, these things happening. You can sort of get that speed, that sense that we're on the cusp of something that is going to lead to a certain opacity about what the future is going to look like and where that transition occurs. Some people here think 2 to 5 years, might be 10 years, might be 20 years. What does it matter? It's like an instant in time. And to me, it just deepens my sense of what a privilege it feels like to be alive at this moment in the history of life, where we're transitioning, a transition as significant as that occurred 500 million years ago, 700 million years ago, when single cells came together to form multicellular organisms and ended up creating all of the macro evolution, the macro life around us, the body plans that we see today. What a transition. And now we're at an equivalent transition that's occurring when multicellular organisms, namely us, powered by cerebral cortices that are cognitive structures that are very, very sophisticated and now are accreting all sorts of non-biological entity and activity around them, are creating this transition to a planetary global superorganism. And so to be able to be here and watch that transition, and not only watch it and be observers, but we're the architects of it. And that's an amazing thing, and we're also the objects of it. It's going to affect us and our children and our future. So everybody cares about it. So it's wonderful to be here.